Hi everyone, and welcome to Tuesdays at 2 with Haven. My name is Julie, and today we are going to be talking about styling with the color green. So let's go ahead and begin by examining the color green a little bit in terms of where it lives on the color wheel. You can see from this first slide that we've got up here that we have the full color wheel, and it's going to live in between the yellow and the blue. Green is a secondary color that's derived from green and blue. Yellow and blue, and it's going to have a lot of complementary colors because of that. So because of where it lives on the color wheel, it actually works almost universally with every other color. You can see from the green color wheel on the bottom that there are many different shades of green, and we will talk a little bit about how to incorporate them and when to choose them as we kind of move through our slides here. But to begin with, let's go ahead and get started talking about what the color green symbolizes. So green is known as the color of life. It represents nature, growth, freshness, and energy. It's also associated with money and jealousy, wealth, richness. It can mean like a moving forward, or in terms of stoplight, green means go. It's a projection and a new beginning. And it also symbolizes peace, zen, calm, and relaxation. You'll see from all the different ways that we describe green that they're used across many aspects of our day-to-day life. We use the terms pickle green, pear green, lime green, mint green, olive green, all derived from food. You also have sage, there's pistachio. So those derivatives come out of this green color wheel here, and they're things that we actually use in our day-to-day life. They also have green names that are based in nature, like moss, pine, fern, seafoam green, and even animals like crocodile green or parakeet. Those are all colors that are going to be universally used, across the realm of greens, but we do derive them from things that are in our day-to-day life. So you'll see from the color wheel here that there is no shortage of shades of green, and they start from deeper hues into that hunter green at the bottom. They move into those blue greens as you kind of go around to the right, yellow greens in the top right corner, and everything in between as you kind of get into those softer, lighter colors as you kind of wind up the wheel up into the upper left on the bottom slide there. So a little bit of interesting things about the color wheel in terms of green is that much like when you're starting to design any space, you're going to want to make sure that you're choosing the right green with intention. So any good design plan is going to be based on a well-developed plan, incorporating inspiration, and an attention to detail. So let's explore gathering green inspiration and how to use them. We'll go into our next slide here, which is a little bit about nature. So greens in nature have a broad range, but just as we would build a design plan in a design about a room, let's start with starting with our largest anchoring pieces in nature, and that would be your trees and the big full brush of all of the green life that lives in nature. So the rich colors of evergreens, pine, cedar trees, spruce, boxweeds, they're all very appealing in that deep green tone. And nature showcases a beautiful harmony of organic greens that work well with other earth tones. So earth tones can be defined by any color that has some brown, which is the color of earth. So think a little bit in terms of those lines. You're going to want to add things like peach instead of pink, mauve instead of purple, or tangerine instead of green. And that's a good way to complement any of the greens from nature. Again, bringing in those earth tones, really keeping that soothing, natural things that you would find just out in your day-to-day life as you're walking around too. So a good match for your very deep earth tones or your earth greens are going to be your earth tone colors. Green is also known for relaxation, as we mentioned. So if you're going to be going for a calm design scheme, you'll want to lean into greens that create relaxation and zen, which tend to be the softer yellow greens and blue greens. Complementary zen colors are going to be more muted colors, such as that soft pink that's in the lotus flower. Others like pastels and ice cream colors are tranquil and excellent complementary colors for a more zen and relaxing green space. We see the use of calming greens and complementary colors done really well in Scandinavian and boho design styles, where the majority of the aesthetic of the room is going to be a lot more neutral, and then these are just softer additions, and they kind of bring in that pop of color, they bring in the life and texture, and that's where you're really reading into green in terms of a symbol in those sort of design fields. But let's talk a little bit about where to use green in various spaces. So we'll go first here to our exterior spaces. Greens are on the exterior of your home. It'll occur naturally with landscaping, right? In terms of like having the grass, the trees, the bushes, all those things that are just there normally on in your outside landscaping. They're very appealing for exterior design, and a well-manicured space is not only aesthetically appealing, but will also be very inviting and welcoming. One thing we do with design a lot is we want to make sure that we do have an intention of how we're setting their space, and having a really well manicured landscape, it creates a pass-through of transition, right? So you're going to leave the outside and move into your house. Having a lot of luxurious green and having a very well manicured outdoor landscape, what that does is it really calms and resets the way that you feel when you walk into a room. It decreases stress, it resets your mind, and it creates a more peaceful transition as you move into the house. Now, landscaping has been increasingly popular in 2020 because we are all working from home. We are staying inside our spaces a lot more, and we want to make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. So there's a lot of trend going into the outside of our house as well, and making that a very design trend heavy space right now. One of those trends that we're seeing, which is coming up a lot, and if you're a Midwesterner like myself, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but it's called xeriscaping, and this is not new, but it's been very much taken over by the West Coast or in drier landscapes. And xeriscaping is defined by National Geographic as the practice of defining landscapes to reduce or eliminate the need for irrigation. So this means as little or no water required beyond natural elements of what these plants can live in. And it's a very green way of us looking at our outside spaces. And again, even just using the word green as we're talking about green spaces is interesting, because that shows a new use of the word green, talking about being eco-friendly and very earth-friendly as well. But let's still talk about how we can incorporate green in our outside spaces. Now, you're going to have, aside from the landscaping, you've got an option, right, in terms of painting your house. And you can go all in on painting the exterior of your home, or you can do it with a pop of color, such as this green door, which I think is wonderful when you just have some light accessories. So I would recommend for a house or a larger structure, if you do something a little less, committal, and not painting the whole space, but actually doing those accents, it would be really nice to see a green door, green window shutters, a green garage door, anything you can do to really put the color in use, but without overkilling the space as well. We do have a lot of flexibility on indoor spaces too, as we talk about interiors here. So when you're designing an interior space with green, you have two basic options. Again, you're going to go all in, or you're going to go with just the accents. And green can be such a luxurious color. It really has flexibility through many tones to manipulate the intention of any room that you're designing. So all in interiors would mean committing to the color and painting the walls. In my case, the ceiling. I'm a big fan of doing your ceilings as well, and we have done a Tea at 2 on that, which you can find on our YouTube channel in terms, it was called, I'm sorry, I'm drawing blank on the name right now, but it was about ceilings and floors. So you can find that one on our YouTube channel as well. But looking at this, an example of the slide, you can see that on that top picture, that really deep, almost hunter green has a lot of, it's carrying a lot of the heavy weight in this room, but it's also really creating an ambiance. And then there's been layers of green added in. So you've got that emerald green that's happening in the ottoman and in the blanket, and you've got that fiddle leaf tree that's in the corner, which is introducing parts of the Kelly green into the space too. So a lot of multiple layers of green in this room. It really creates a super calming, very inviting room. It's also got that depth and that space, but you'll notice that most of these complementary pieces that are in here, again to our earlier point, are all earth tones. So that with that brown leather sofa and the ivory colored blanket, and then you've got that weathered look, and even the orange tones in the piece of art above it, all really, really sophisticated and complement the space nicely. And in the bottom photo there, you're gonna see that they've got the lesser of the version, which is gonna be your accenting of the pieces. And they've got the green plants on the coffee table along with those basil colored pillows on the sofa, and then pulling in the cactus pillow with the print and the live cactus on the table. These are ways that you can talk across the room using your color without having to go all in, but the green is still very dominant in this space. It's just a lot more subtle. A nice technique in using that in terms of accessorizing. You can also do that with art and rugs, but we can move a little bit more here into the impact that greens bring when we bring them inside a space, and that's texture. So texture is necessary and designed to break up monotony. We see this a lot when you've got really stark edges, or if spaces don't have a whole lot of interest, or if it's just four walls and they're all square and nothing's really of interest. Bring in texture, and that can be done really nicely with greens. So plants are a great use of that, and the current trends in greenery are going to be light and airy but also leafy greens. So things like succulents, agave plants, cacti, eucalyptus, fiddle leaves, and banana trees are really popular right now. And they'll bring in texture and color, but we can also use those to bring in height, and that's really to break things up in the space. So if you've got all of your furniture is at one level, add a level of height here. And what you're doing, if you're putting in a taller plant that's next to your sofa that's kind of bringing up the height, it's also adding art, right? Because it's now bringing it up to the wall and it's a little higher. So it's a good way for you to introduce color, texture, and art all in one with greenery, which is really, really nicely done when it's executed well. So bringing in all those things together will really enhance the overall aesthetic of your design. But remember that the key takeaway here is that design should have a place for the eye to rest. So you always want to make sure that you're finding those places and intentionally creating them, and using your leafy plants and the varying heights is a great way to do that with intention. So hopefully you've been able to find some inspiration from our talk today, and I hope that you'll be able to create and cultivate your perfect green space for your home. Thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in next Tuesday when we have a special Thanksgiving table setting Tuesday at 2 with Haven. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.